Habit for Think Win Win 217 page. Character. Character is the foundation of win win, and everything else builds on that foundation. There are three character traits essential to the win win paradigm. Integrity. We have already defined integrity as the value we place on ourselves. Habits 1, 2, and 3 help us develop and maintain integrity as we clearly identify our values and proactively organize and execute around those values of a daily basis. We develop self-awareness and interdependent will by making and keeping meaningful promises and commitments. There's no way to go for a win in our own lives if we don't even know about in deep sense what constitutes a win. What is in fact harmonious with our innermost values, and if we can't make and keep commitments to ourselves as well as to others, our commitments become meaningless. We know it, others know it. They sense duplicity and become guarded. There's no foundation of trust, and win win becomes an ineffective, superficial technique. Integrity is the cornerstone in the foundation. Maturity. Maturity is the balance between courage and consideration. If a person can express his feelings and convictions with courage, balanced with consideration for the feelings and conviction of another person, he is mature, particularly if the issue is very important to both parties. If you examine many of the psychological tests used for hiring, promoting, and training purpose, you will find that they are designed to evaluate this kind of maturity. Whether it's called the ego, strength, empathy, balance, the self confidence, respect for others balance, the concern for people, concern for tax balance. I am okay, you are okay in transactional analysis language or 9.1, 1.9, 5.5, 9.9. In management great language, the quality sought for is the balance of what I call courage and consideration. Respect for this quality of deeply ingrained in the theory of human interaction, management, and leadership. It is a deep embodiment of the P by PC balance. While courage might focus on getting the golden egg, consideration deals with the long term welfare of the other stakeholders. The basic task of leadership is to increase the standard of living and the quality of life for all stakeholders. Many people think in dichotomies in either or terms. They think if you are nice, you are not tough. But win win is nice and tough. It's twice as tough as win loss. To go for win win, you are okay. You only have to be nice. You have to be courageous. You not only have to be empathic, you have to be confident. You not only have to be considerate and sensitive, you have to be brave. To do that, to achieve that balance between courage and consideration is the essence of the real maturity and fundamental to win-win. If I am higher on courage and low on consideration, how will I think win loss? I will be strong and ego bound. I will have the courage of my convictions, but I wouldn't be very considerate of yours. To compensate for my lack of internal maturity and emotional strength, I might borrow strength from my position and power or from my credentials, my seniority, and my affiliations. If I am high on consideration and low on courage, I will think loss when I will be go considerate of your convictions and desires that I won't have the courage to express and actualize my own. There's have a map or sketch where they describe this how the consideration is going low to high if the loss and the courage. Okay. High courage and consideration are both essential to win-win. It is the balance that is the mark of real maturity. If I have it, I can listen, I can empathically understand, but I can also courageously confront. Abundance mentality. The third chapter, trait essential to win-win, is the abundance mentality. The paradigm that there is plenty out there for everybody. Most people are deeply scripted in what I call the scarcity mentality. They see if life as having only so much, as stuff there were only one pie out there, and if someone were to get a big piece of the pie, uh, it would mean less for everybody else. The scarcity mentality is the zero sum paradigm of life. People with a scarcity mentality have a very difficult time sharing recognition and credit, power or profit, even with those who help in the production. They also have a very hard time being genuinely happy for the success of other people, even and sometimes, especially members of their own family or close friends and associates. It's more almost as if something is being taken from them when someone else receives special recognition or windfall gain or has remarkable success or achievement. Although they might verbally express happiness for others, success inwardly they are eating their hearts out. Their sense of worth comes from being compared and someone else's success to some degree means their failure. Only so many people can be students. Only one person can be number one. To win simply means to beat. Often people with a scarcity mentality harbor secret hopes that others might suffer misfortune, not trivial misfortune, but acceptable misfortune that would keep them in their place. They are always comparing, always competing. They give their energies to processing things or other people in order to increase their sense of worth. They want other people to be the way they want them to be. They often want to clone them and they surrounded themselves with yes people who won't challenge them, people who are weaker than they. It's difficult for people with a scarcity mentality to be members of a complementary team. They look on differences as signs of insubordination and disloyalty. The abundance mentality, on the other hand, flows out of a deep inner sense of personal worth and security. It, it is the paradigm that there is plenty out there and enough to spare for everybody. It results in sharing and prestige of recognition of profits, of decision making. It opens the possibilities, options, alternatives, and creativity. The abundance mentality takes the personal joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment of habits 1, 2, and 3 and turns it outward, appreciating the uniqueness, the inner direction, the proactive nature of others. It recognizes the ultimate possibilities for positive interactive growth and development, creating new third alternatives. Public victory does not mean victory over other people. It means success in effective interaction that brings mutually beneficial results to everyone involved. Public victory means working together, communicating together, making things happen together. A character rich in integrity, maturity, and the abundance mentality has a geniusness that goes far beyond technique or lack of it in human interaction. One thing I have found particularly helpful in win-loss people in developing a win-win character is to associate with some model or mentor who really thinks win-win. When people are deeply scripted in win-loss or other philosophies and regularly associated with others who are likewise scripted, they don't have much opportunity to see and experience the win-win philosophy in action. So I remember reading literature. I recommend reading literature such as the inspiring biography of Anwar Sadat in search of identity and seeing movies like Chariots of Fire or plays like Les Miserables, that expose you to, 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 models of win-win. But remember, if we search deeply enough within ourselves, beyond the scripting, beyond the learning attitudes and behaviors, the real validation of win-win, as well as very every other correct principle, is in our own lives. Relationships. Relationships. From the foundation of character, we build and maintain win-win relationships. The trust, the emotional bank account, is the essence of win-win. Without trust, the best we can do is compromise. Without trust, we lack the credibility for open, mutual learning and communication and real creativity. But if our emotional bank account is high, credibility is so longer an credibility is no longer an issue. Enough deposits have been made so that you know and I know that we deeply respect each other. We are focused on the issues but on personality on personalities or positions. Because we trust each other, we are open, we put our cards on the table, even though we see things differently. I know that you are willing to listen with respect while I describe the young woman to you, and you know that I will treat your description of the old woman with the same respect. We are both committed to try to understand each other's point of view deeply and to work together. For the third alternative, the synergistic solution that will be a better answer both for both of us. A relationship where bank accounts are high and both parties are deeply committed to win-win is the real springboard for tremendous synergy. Habit 6. That relationship neither makes the issues any less real or important, nor eliminates the differences in perspective, but it does eliminate the negative energy normally focused on difference in personality and position, and creates a positive cooperative energy focused on thoroughly understanding the issues and resolving them in a mutually beneficial way. But what if what kind of relationship isn't there? What if you have to work out an agreement with someone who hasn't even heard of win-win and is deeply scripted in win-loss or some other philosophy? Dealing with win-loss is the real test of win-win. Rarely is win-win easily achieved in any circumstance. Deep issues and fundamental differences have to be dealt with, but it is much easier when both parties are aware of and committed and committed to it, and where there is a high emotional bank account in the relationship. When you are dealing with a person who is coming from a paradigm of win-loss is the relationship is still the key. The place to focus is on your circle of influence. You make deposits into the emotional bank account through genuine courtesy, respect, and appreciation for that person and for the other point of view. You say stay longer in the communication process. You listen more. You stay longer in the communication process. You listen more. You listen in greater depth. You express yourself with greater courage. You aren't reactive. You go deeper inside yourself of for strength of character to be proactive. You keep hammering it out until the other person begins to realize that you genuinely want the resolution to be a real win for both of you. That very process is a tremendous deposit in the emotional bank account. And the stronger you are, the more genuine you are, genuine your character. The higher your character level of proactivity, the more committed you really are to win-win. The more powerful your influence will be with that other person. This is the real test of interpersonal leadership. It goes beyond transactional leadership into transformational leadership, transforming the individuals involved as well as the relationship. Because win-win is a principle because people can validate in their own lives. You will be able to being bring most people to a realization that they will win more of what they want by going for what you both want. But there will be a few who are so deeply embedded in the win-loss mentality that they just won't think win-win. So remember that no deal is always an option, or you may occasionally choose to go for the low form of win-win compromise. It's important to realize that not all decisions are made to be win-win, even when the emotional bank account is high. Again, the key is the relationship. If you and I work together, for example, and you were to come to me and say, Stephen, I know you won't like this discussion. I don't have time to explain it to you. Let alone get you involved. There's a good possibility you will think it's wrong, but will you support it? If you had a positive emotional bank account with me, of course, I would support it. I would hope you were right and I was wrong. I would work to make your decision work. But if the emotional bank account weren't there and if I were reactive, I wouldn't really support it. I might say I would to your face, but behind your back, I wouldn't be very enthusiastic. I wouldn't make the investment necessary to make it succeed. It didn't work. I would say, so what do you want me to do now? If I were overreactive, I might even torpedo your decision and do what I could to be sure others did too, or I might become maliciously obe- uh, obedient and do exactly and only what you tell me to do, accepting no responsibility for results. During the 5 years I lived in Great Britain, I saw that country both twice to its knees because the train conductors were maliciously obedient in following all the rules and procedures written on paper. An agreement means very little in letter without the character and relationship base to sustain it in spirit. So we need to approach win-win from the genuine desire to invest in the relationship that make it possible. Agreements from relationship follow the agreements that give definition and direction to win. They are sometimes called performance agreements or partnership agreements, shifting the paradigm of productive interaction from vertical to horizontal, from hovering supervision to self supervision, from positioning to being partners in success. Win win agreements cover a wide scope of interdependent interaction. We discussed one important application when we talked about delegation in the green and clean story in habit 3. The same five elements we listed there provide the structure for win-win agreements between employers and employees, between independent people working together on project, between groups of people cooperatively focused on a common objective, between a compromise between companies and suppliers, between any people who need to interact to accomplish they create an effective way to clarify and manage expectations between people involved in any interdependent individuals. In the win-win agreement, the following five elements are made very explicit. Desired results, not methods. Identify what is to be done and when. Guidelines specify the parameters within which results are to be accomplished. Resources identify the human, financial, technical, or organizational support available to help accomplish the results. Accountability sets up the standards of performance and the time of evaluation. Consequences specify good and bad, natural and logical. What does and will happen as a result of the evaluation? These five elements will give win-win agreements of life of their own. A clear mutual understanding and agreement upfront in those areas creates a standard against which people can measure their own success. Traditional authoritarian supervision is a win-loss paradigm. It's also the result of an overdrawn emotional bank account. If you don't have trust or a common vision of desired results, you tend to hover over, check up on, and direct. Trust isn't there, so you feel as though you have to control people. But if the trust account is high, what is your method? Get out of their way. As long as you have an upfront win-win agreement and they know exactly what is expected, your role is to be a source of help and to receive their accountability reports. It is much more ennobling to the human spirit to let people judge themselves than to judge them. And in a high trust culture, it's much more accurate. In many cases, people know in their hearts how things are going much better than the records show. This discriminant is often far more accurate than either observation or uh, measurement. When when management training. Several years ago, I was indirectly involved in a consulting project with a very large banking institution that had score of branches. They wanted us to evaluate and improve their management training program, which was supported by an annual budget of 7,500K. The paradigm involved selecting college graduates and putting them through 12 2 week assignment in various departments over a 6 month period of time so that they could get a general sense of the industry. They spent 2 weeks in commercial loans, 2 weeks in industrial loans, 2 weeks in marketing, weeks in 2 weeks in operations, and so forth. At the end of the 6 month period, they were assigned as assistant managers in the various branch banks. Our assignment was to evaluate the 6 month formal training period. As we began, we discovered that the most difficult part of the assignment was to get a clear picture of the desired results. We asked the top executives the key hard question: what should those people be able to do when they finish the program? And the answer we got were vague and often contradictory. The training program dealt with methods, not results. So we suggested that they set up a pilot training program based on a different paradigm called learner controlled instruction. This was a win-win as agreement that involved identifying specific objectives and criteria that would demonstrate their accomplishment and identifying the guidelines, resources, accountability, and consequences that would result when the objectives were met. The consequence in this case were promotion to assign assistant manager, they where they would receive the on the job part of their training and a significant increase in salary. We had to really press to get the objectives hammered out. What is it you want them to understand about accounting? What about marketing? What about real estate loans? And we went down the list. They finally came up with over and 100 objectives, which we simplified, reduced, and consolidated until we came down to the trainees were highly motivated by both the opportunity and the increased salary to meet the criteria as soon as possible. There was a big win in it for them, and there was also a big win for the company because they would have assistant branch managers who met results oriented criteria instead of just showing up for 12 different activity traps. So we explained the difference between learner controlled instruction and system controlled instruction to the trainees. We basically said here are the objectives and the criteria, here are the resources including learning from each other. So go to it as soon as you meet the criteria, you will be promoted to assistant managers. They were finished in 3.5 weeks. Shifting the training paradigm had released unbelievable motivation and creativity. As with many paradigm shifts, there was resistance. Almost all of the top executives simply wouldn't believe it. When they were shown the evidence that the criteria had been met, they basically said these trainees don't have the experience. They lack the seasoning necessary to have to give them the kind of judgment we want them to have as assistant branch managers. In talking with them later, we found that what many of them were really saying was, we went through, got weak. How come those guys don't have to? But of course, they couldn't put it that way. They lack seasoning was a much more acceptable expression. In addition, for obvious seasons, including the personal department was upset. So we responded, fair enough. Let's develop some more objectives and attach criteria to them. But let's step with the paradigm of learner controlled instruction. We ironed out eight more objectives with every tough criteria in order to give the executives the assurance that the people were adequately prepared to be assistant and branch managers and continue the on the job part of the training program. After participating in some of the seasons where these criteria were developed, several of the executives remarked that if the trainees could meet these through criteria, they would be better prepared than almost any who had gone through the 6 month program. We had prepared the trainees to expect resistance. We took the additional objectives and criteria back to them and said, just as we expected, management wants you to accomplish some additional objectives with even tougher criteria than before. They have assured us this time that if you meet these criteria, they will make you assistant managers. They went to work in unbelievable ways. They want to the executives in departments such as accounting and basically said, Sir, I am a member of this new pilot program called Learner Controlled Instruction, and it is my understanding that you participated in developing the objectives and the criteria. I have 6 criteria to meet in this particular department. I was able to pass 3 of them off with skills I gained in college. I was able to get another one out of a book. I learned the fifth one from Tom, the fellow you trained last week. I only have one criterion left to meet, and I wonder if you or someone else in the department might be able to spend a few hours with me to show me how. So they spend half a day in a department instead of 2 weeks. These trainees cooperated with each other, brainstormed with each other, and they accomplished the additional objectives in a week and a half. The 6 month program was reduced to 5 weeks, and the results were significantly increased. This kind of thinking can similarly affect every area of organizational life. In people have the courage to explore their paradigms and to concentrate on win-win. I am always amazed at the results that happen, both to includes both to individuals and to organizations. When responsible, proactive, directing individuals are turned loose on a task. Win-win performance agreements. Creating win-win performance agreements requires vital. paradigm shifts. The focus is on results, not methods. Most of us tend to supervise methods. We use the gopher delegation discussed in habit 3. The methods management I used with Sandra when I asked her to take pictures of our son as he was water skiing. But win-win agreements focus on results, releasing tremendous individual human potential and creating greater synergy. Building C in the process instead of focusing exclusively on P. With win-win accountability, people evaluate themselves. The traditional evaluation games people play are awkward and emotionally exhausting. In win-win, people evaluate themselves using the criteria that they themselves helped to create upfront. And if you set it up correctly, people can do that. With a win-win delegation agreements, if even a 7 year old boy can tell for himself how well he is keeping the yard green and clean. My best experience in teaching university classes have come when I have created a win-win shared understanding of the goal upfront. This is what we are trying to accomplish. Where here are the basic requirements for an A, B, or C grade. My goal is to help every one of you get an A. Now you take what we have talked about and analyze it and come up with your own understanding of what you want to accomplish with that is unique to you. Then let's get together and agree on the grade you want and what you plan to do to get it. Management philosopher and consultant Peter Drucker recommends the use of a manager letter to capture the essence of performance agreements between managers and their employees. Following a deep and thorough discussion of expectations, guidelines, and resources to make sure they are in harmony with organizational goal to employee writes a letter to the manager that summarizes the discussion and indicates when the next performance plan or review discussion will take place. Developing such a win-win performance agreement is the central activity of management. With an agreement in place, employees can manage themselves within the framework of that agreement. The manager, when they then can serve like a pace car in race. He can get things going and then get out of the way. His job from then on is to remove the oil spills. When a boss becomes the first assistant to each of his subordinates, he can greatly increase his span of control. Entire level of administration and overhead can be eliminated instead of supervising six or eight. Such a manager can supervise 20, 30, 50, or more. In win-win performance agreements, consequences become the natural or logical result of performance rather than a reward or punishment arbitrarily handed out by the person in charge. There are basically four kinds of consequences that management or parents can control: financial, physical opportunity, responsibility. Financial consequences include such things as income, stock options, allowance, or penalties. Or psychological consequences include recognition, approval, respect, credibility, or the loss of them, unless people are in a survival mode. Physic compensation is often more motivating than financial compensate. Opportunity includes training, development, perks, perks that and other benefits. Responsibility has to do with scope and authority, either of which can be enlarged or diminished. Win-win agreements specify consequence in one or more of those areas, and the people involved know it upfront. So you don't play games. Everything is clear from the beginning. In addition to those logical personal consequences, it is also important to clearly identify what the natural organizational consequences are. For example, what will happen if I am late to work, if I refuse to cooperate with others, if I don't develop good win-win performance agreements with my subordinates, if I don't hold them accountable for desired results, or if I don't promote their professional growth and career development. When my daughter turned 16, we set up a win-win agreement regarding use of the family car. We agreed that she would obey the laws of the land, and that she would keep the car clean and properly maintained. We agreed that she would use the car only for responsible purpose and would serve as a car driver for her mother and me within reason. And we also agreed that she would do all her other jobs cheerfully without being reminded. These were our wins. We also agreed that I would provide some resources, the car, gas, and insurance, and we agreed that she would meet weekly with me, usually on Sunday afternoon, to evaluate how she was doing based on our agreements. The consequences were clear. As long as she kept her part of the agreement, she could use the car. If she didn't keep it, she would lose the privilege until she decided to. This win-win agreement set up clear expectations from the beginning on both our parts. It was a win for her. She got to use the car, and it was certainly a win for Sandra and me. Now she could handle her own transportation needs and even some of ours. We didn't have to worry about maintaining the car or keeping it clean, and we had a built in accountability, which meant I didn't have to hover over her or manage her methods, her integrity, her conscience, her power of discriminant, and our high emotional bank account managed infinitely better. We didn't have to get emotionally strung out trying to supervise her every move and coming up with punishments on or rewards on the spot if she didn't do things the way we thought she should. We had a win-win agreement, and it liberated us all. Win-win agreements are tremendously liberating, but as the product of isolated techniques, they won't hold up. Even if you set them up in the beginning, there is no way to maintain them without personal integrity and a relationship of trust. A true win-win agreement is the product of the paradigm, the character, and the of relationship out of which it grows. In that context, it defines and direct the interdependent interaction for which it was created. Systems. Win-win can only survive in an organization that the systems support it. If you talk win-win but reward win-loss, you have got a losing program on your hands. You basically get what you reward. If you want to achieve the goals and reflect the values in your mission statement, then you need to align reward system with those goals and values. If it isn't aligned systematically, you wouldn't be walking your talk. You will be in the situation of the manager I mentioned earlier who talked cooperation but participated competition by creating a race to Bermuda contest. I worked for several years with a very large real estate organization in the Middle East. My first experience with this organization was at a large sales rally where over 80,000 sales association gathered for the annual reward program. It was a psych up cheerleading session completing with high school bands with bands and a great deal of friends scamming. Out of the 80 100 people there, around 40 received award for top performance, such as most sales, greatest volume, highest art commissions, and most listing. There was a highest earned commission and most listing. There was a lot of hoopla, excitement, cheering, applause around the presentation of these awards. There was no doubt that those 40 people had won, but there was also the underlying awareness that 760 people had lost. We immediately began educational and organizational development work to align the system and structures of the organization. Toward the win-win paradigm, we involved people at a grassroots level to develop the kinds of system that would motivate them. We also encouraged them to cooperate and synergize with each other so that as many as possible could achieve the desired results of their individually tailored performance agreements. At the next rally, 1 year later, there were over 1,000 sales associated present, and about 800 of them received awards. There were a few individual winners based on comparisons comparisons, but the program primarily focused on people achieving self selected performance objectives and on groups achieving team objectives. There was no need to bring in the high school brands to artificially contrive the fanfare, the cheerleading, and the psych up there was tremendous natural interest and excitement because people could share in each other's happiness, and teams of sales associates could share in each other's happiness, and teams of sales associates could experience rewards together, including a vacation trip for the entire office. The remarkable thing was that almost all of the 800 who received the awards that year had produced as much per person in terms of volume and profit as the previous year's fourth 40 previous year as the previous year's 40. The spirit of win-win and had significantly increased the number of golden eggs and talent. The resulting synergy was astounding to almost everyone involved. Competition has its place in the marketplace or against last year's performance, perhaps even against another office or individual where there is no particular interdependence, no need to cooperate. But cooperation in the workplace is as important to free enterprise as competition in the marketplace. The spirit of win-win cannot survive as in an environment of competition and contest. For win-win to work, the system have to support it. The training system, the planning system, the communication system, the budgeting system, the information system, the compensation system, all have to be based on the principle of win-win. I did some consulting for another company that wanted training for their people in human relations. The underlying assumption was that the problem was the people. The president said, "Go into any store you want and see how they treat you. They are just order takers. They don't understand how to get close to the customers. They don't know the product, and they don't have the knowledge and the skill in the sales process necessary to create a marriage between the product and the need." So I went to the various stores, and he was right, but that still didn't answer the question in my mind. What caused the attitude? Look, we are on top of the problem. The president said we have department heads out there setting a great example. We have told them their job is two-thirds selling and one-third management, and they are outselling everybody. We just want you to provide some training for the salesperson. Those words raised a red flag. Let's get some more data, I said. He didn't like that. He knew what the problem was, and he wanted to get on with training. But I persisted, and within 2 days we uncovered the real problem because of the poor job definition and the compensation system. The managers were charming, creaming. The managers were creaming. They would stand behind the cash register and cream all the business during the slow times. Half the time in retail is slow, and the other half is frantic. So the managers would give all the dirty jobs, inventory control, stock work, and cleaning to the salesperson, and they would stand behind the registers and cream. That's why the department heads were tops in sales. So we changed one system, the compensation system, and the problem was corrected overnight. We set up a system nearby the managers only made money when their salesperson made money. We overlapped the needs and goals of the managers with the needs and goals of the sales people, and the need for human relations training suddenly disappeared. And the key was developing a true win-win reward system. In another instance, I worked with a manager in a company that required formal performance evaluations. He was frustrated over the evaluation rating he had given a particular manager. He deserved a 3, he said, but I had to give him a 1. The what did you give him one for? I asked. He gets the numbers. Was his reply. So why do you think he deserves a three? It's the way he gets them. He neglects people. He runs over them. He's a troublemaker. It sounds like he's totally focused on P, on production, and that's what he's being rewarded for. But what would happen if you talked with him about the problem, if you helped him understand the importance of PC? He said he had done so with no effect. Then, what if you set up a win-win contract with him where you both agreed that two-thirds of his compensation would come from P from the numbers, and the other one-third would come from PC, how other people perceive him, uh, what kind of leader, people builder, team builder he is. Now that would get his attention, he replied. So often the problem is in the system, not in the people. If you put good people in bad systems, you get bad results. You have to water the flowers you want to grow. As people really learn to think when they can set up the systems to create and reinforce it. They can transform unnecessarily competitive situations to cooperative ones, and can powerfully impact their effectiveness by building both P and PC. In business, executives can align their systems to create teams of highly productive people working together to compete against external standards of performance. In education, teachers can set up grading systems based on an individual's performance in the context of agreed upon criteria, and can encourage systems to cooperate in productive ways to help each other learn and achieve. In families, parents can shift the focus from competitive competition with each other to cooperative in activities such as bowling. For example, they can keep a family score there and try to beat a previous one. They can set up home responsibilities with win-win agreements that eliminated uh, constant nagging, and enable parents to do the things only. A friend once shared with me a cartoon. He had been seen of two children talking to each other. If mommy doesn't get us up soon, one was saying, we are going to be late for school. These words brought forcibly to his attention the nature of the problems created when families are not organized on a responsible win-win basis. Win-win puts the responsibility on the individual for accomplishing specified results within clear guidelines and available resources. It makes a person accountable to perform and evaluate the results, and provides consequence as a natural result of performance. And win-win systems created the environment which supports and reinforces the win-win performance agreements process. There's no way to achieve win-win ends with win-loss or loss-win means. You can't say you are going to think a win-win whether you like it or not. So the question becomes how to arrive at a win-win solution. Roger Fisher and William Urey, two Harvard law professors, have done some outstanding work in what they call the principled approach versus the positional approach to bargaining in their tremendously useful and insightful book. Getting to yes, although the words win-win are not used, the spirit and underlying philosophy of the book are in harmony with the win-win approach. That the essence of principled negotiation is to separate the person from the people, to focus on interest and not on positions, to invent options for mutual gain, and to insist on objective criteria, some external standard or principle that both parties can buy into. In my own work with various people and organizations seeking win-win solutions, I suggest that they become involved in the following four-step process. First, see the problem from the other point of view. Really seek to understand and to give expression to the needs and concerns of the other party as well as or better than they can themselves. Second, identify the key issues and concerns involved. Third, determine what results would constitute a fully acceptable solution. And fourth, identify possible new options to achieve those results. Habits 5 and 6 deal directly with two of the elements of this process, and we will go into those in depth in the next two chapters. But at this juncture, let me point out the highly in, in, interrelated natural of the process of win-win with the essence of um, win-win itself. You can only achieve win-win situation with win-win process. The end and the means are the same. Win-win is not a personality technique. It's a total paradigm of human interaction. It comes from a character of integrity, maturity, and the abundance mentality. It grows out of high trust relationship. It is embodied in agreements that effectively clarify and manage expectations as well as accomplishment, and it thrives in supportive systems, and it is achieved through the process are we are now prepared to more fully examine in habit 5 and 6. Application suggestions. Think about an upcoming interaction wherein you will be at tempting to reach an agreement or negotiate a solution. Commit commit to maintain a balance between courage and consideration. Make a list of obstacles that keep you from applying the win-win paradigm more frequently. Determine what could be done within your circle of influence to eliminate some of those obstacles. 3. Select a specific relationship where you would like to develop a win-win agreement. Try to put yourself in the other person's place and write down uh, explicitly and how you think that person sees the solution. Then list from your own perspective what results would constitute a win for you. Approach the other person and ask if he or she would be willing to mm, commune communicate until you reach a point of agreement and mutually mm, beneficial solution. Identify three key relationships in your life. Give some indirection of what you feel the balance is in each of the emotional bank accounts. Write down some specific ways you could make deposits to each account. Deeply consider your own scripting. It win loss? How does the scripting affect your interactions with other people? Can you identify the main source of that script? Determine whether or not those scripts serve well in your current reality. 6. Try to identify a model of win-win thinking who, how, even in hard situations, really seek mutual benefit. Determine now to more closely watch and person's learn from this person's example. This is the end of habit 4. Thank you very much